How's it going, YouTube? For today's episode, I wanted to talk about the WWE Smackdown episode for January 2nd, 2026. They've gone back to a 3-hour format. I wanted to talk to you about what I got out of it. But I think before we do that, maybe I should start doing a segment called, like the WWE or the wrestling action figure of the day that you might have forgotten about. And for today's action figure, I have here from the mid-1980s. I actually got a double shot of this. How about this? This is Special Delivery Jones. I don't know if you remember this one from the mid-80s, from WWF. He had two action figures. And I'll tell you, this guy, he was good. He was a legend from back then. You knew if you had Special Delivery Jones in a match, you knew it was going to be a good match. Now, he was one of those guys that he was one of the famous WWF jobbers from back in the 80s, and even though he was under contract as a guy, he was going to put over like the other wrestlers to make them look good and stuff. He always made sure the match was entertaining. I don't remember ever one time watching a match back in the 80s that had Special Delivery Jones on it that I felt let down. Unlike today, where lots of times you watch Raw and SmackDown or whatever, or NXT, you feel let down all the time. Whereas this guy here, I never felt let down watching his matches. That's why they had to make not only just one action figure of him, but they made two, because he was a genuine legend. I'll tell you, always was entertained with Special Delivery Jones matches. And anyway, with today's topic here of SmackDown from January 2nd, 2026, what I was surprised about, here I thought they were going to be talking about what I was talking about in my last YouTube video, where I was praising WWE because I couldn't believe when I logged on to my Netflix account that they had actually uploaded 453 of these WWE pay-per-views and premium live events from the 1980s up to the current time. They had uploaded them onto Netflix as of January 2nd. There was not one word of this mentioned on SmackDown. I thought that would have been big news. I thought they would have been putting that over big. They didn't say one word about it. I was surprised. Now, but here's what we did find out on SmackDown. We found out, okay, Randy Orton, he's returned from injury. He hadn't been on television since October the 3rd. They had a storyline about him getting injured, and he hadn't been on since, but he's back now, and he was on the beginning of the show. He RKO'd Mike the Miz Mizanin a couple times, and let's see what else was going on that night. Well, we had our first match. We had an eight-woman tag team match. We had Kairi Sane and Asuka, the current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, along with Lash Legend and Nia Jax. They went up against Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. And Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky got a solid decisive win when Io Sky pinned Kairi Sane after doing her over the moonsault finishing maneuver. So we had that as the beginning. Now the next thing that came about, that was a surprise. Match number 2, a person we hadn't seen in many years in WWE, although you see him all the time on TNA wrestling. We had Zack Ryder, who's currently gone by his actual name, Matt Cardona, in TNA. Zack Ryder made his first appearance on SmackDown, and probably first time since like 2019 or 2020. And now we find out Zack Ryder, going by his real name, Matt Cardona, he's officially a member of the WWE Smackdown roster. And he was on a match, and he was up against Kit Wilson of the team Pretty Deadly, and we had Matt Cardona won a solid, decisive win over Kit Wilson, who basically has been turned into a guy that loses every match that he's in. Well, he usually lost anyway, even when the other guy, his tag team partner, Elton Prince, back when they were together as a tag team, they usually lost anyway and stuff. But now that Elton Prince is out on injury, Kit Wilson, he always loses, so that's no surprise. Kit Wilson lost that match. So we had that going on, And next thing we found out on SmackDown are three, because there was actually quite a bit going on this episode. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There was a lot going on here. Next thing in our next segment, we found out that it looks like the next person to be called up from the NXT roster is going to be Jordynne Grace. We had SmackDown general manager Nick Aldis. He was talking to Jordynne Grace about, he was telling her, he's like, yeah, I'd really like to see, I'd really like to recruit you onto the SmackDown roster. And then we have Chelsea Green. She comes out, starts giving Jordynne Grace a big freaking attitude and stuff. And Jordynne Grace, her response is, you know what? With the big freaking attitude I'm getting, it's making my decision all the easier. If I want to join SmackDown, it's going to make it all the more easier for me to join. Because I'm going to feel like coming in here and kicking some people's asses in. Because this is a bunch of bullcrap that I treat people with the same respect that I want to be treated with, and yet they're going to start treating me like freaking garbage like this, the way Chelsea Green was treating her. So it looks like Jordynne Grace very soon is going to be coming on to the SmackDown roster officially. So there you have it there. And the next segment, we find out, also another NXT call-up. This is another big one here. Trick Williams from the NXT roster, he's been officially called up to the SmackDown roster. And it looks like, so Sami Zayn, he's out there cutting a promo in front of the crowd, and Trick Williams comes out, starts giving him a big freaking attitude. So it looks like that's going to be a feud we're going to start seeing pretty soon. Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. That should be an interesting one right there. In the next match, though, this one's kind of interesting here. We have a WWE United States Championship match here involving Johnny Gargano with his wife Candice LeRae versus our current United States champion, Carmelo Hayes. Interesting to note, though, that Johnny Gargano's tag team partner, Tommaso Ciampa, is not there. And there's been we've been seeing reports recently about, like, it as far as people know right now, as of right now, it looks like Tommaso Ciampa, his contract with WWE is about to expire, and it looks like he's not going to be renewing, and that's why they haven't been having Tommaso Ciampa on television in the last few weeks. I mean, nobody really seems to know for sure whether, okay, is Tommaso Ciampa, is he just going to take a while off from wrestling for a while? Is he going to take a break, a much-needed break? This guy's been busting his ass for so many years. He could use a break, Or we don't know if, like, is it possible maybe Tommaso Ciampa may go to AEW? Don't have anything, don't really know at this point and stuff, but, it was just interesting to note that he hadn't come out. We've gotten all these reports about him probably not re-signing. But anyway, the match that Johnny Gargano had against current United States champion Carmelo Hayes for that title is a championship match. Carmelo Hayes won a solid, decisive win. So that's good to see him winning like that in a solid, decisive way. Let's see, what the heck else did we have here? Another thing, next segment, and this was something that tied into real life. Unfortunately, there's been reports that Maya Yim, also known as Michin, she unfortunately had a shoulder injury recently. What was it like? Maybe, was it like not Sunday, but the Sunday before last Sunday? They said she got a legitimate shoulder injury in a match against Jade Cargill. And in this next segment on the show, Jade Cargill was talking about that. And, to try to make it into a storyline, we had Jade Cargill on the show making it sound like, oh, yeah, it was intentional. I was trying to do that, so that way that can set up a feud for whenever she comes back. And let's see, what the heck else was on here next? Oh, this is a big thing, too. Also, another NXT call-up. Yeah, I was wondering how long it was going to be before this next guy was getting called up. But they played a segment basically saying that Obafemi from NXT, they said, well, he's going to be coming to SmackDown soon. So there you go. That should be interesting to see what they do with him. Obafemi always found his matches to be entertaining. It should be interesting to see what they do with Obafemi on the SmackDown roster. Up next, what in the world did we have here? There was a segment here where it was, it involved Cody Rhodes, the undisputed WWE Championship, or he's the undisputed WWE champion, rather. He comes out to do a promo, and then Drew McIntyre, he comes out on the Titantron. He's talking about Drew McIntyre is going to have what's called a 3 stages of hell match with Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE championship next week. And it's going to have 3 matches there. And the first match is going to be a traditional wrestling match. The second match is going to be a Falls Count Anywhere match. And then match number 3, if needed, if nobody's won by this point, then they're going to have a steel cage match. And that's for their show next week. The SmackDown episode is going to be airing in Berlin, Germany. And let's see, what else was on the show? Also, up next, we had a WWE Women's United States Championship match where Chelsea Green, who is the current WWE Women's United States Champion, as well as she's also a AAA Mixed Tag Team Champion. She was out there with Alba Fire, her comrade there, and she was going up against Julia with her comrade Kiana James. Now, thing was, Chelsea Green, she beat Julia for the United States Championship in November 2025. In this match here, we have Julia regaining the WWE Women's United States Championship from Chelsea Green there. And in that match there was a point where it looked like maybe Chelsea Green was going to win, but Kiana James got up on the ring apron, distracted the referee. Then later on, Julia was able to win the match. So there you go. I guess her partnership with Kiana James, you could say it paid off for her there. Now, the last match on SmackDown, that was a no disqualification ambulance match. I said that's only the 7th ambulance match that WWE has had in its history. This is a no disqualification, no count out, no pinfall, no submission match. Only way to beat your opponent is to throw your opponent into the back of an ambulance and slam the doors shut. And here you have Aleister Black with his wife, Zelina Vega, out there. There's a married couple that really doesn't look right together. But then again, with Aleister Black, the way he looks, really pretty much nobody looks right with him. Anyway, and he's up in there against Damian Priest. And in the end, well, what we had during the match, we had Zelina Vega, she was trying to help out Aleister Black, but then it eventually got to the point where Rhea Ripley came out and she wiped out Zelina Vega, and that took her out of commission for the rest of the match. And in the end, Damian Priest got a pretty much a solid, decisive win, threw Aleister Black into the back of that ambulance, slammed those doors shut, and he won the match. So, other than that, what I got out of WWE Smackdown for January 2nd, their episode there was, it looks like this is the last week where Michael Cole and Corey Graves are going to be the announcers for SmackDown for right now. They had gone over 4 months ago just to cover for Joe Tessitore, because Joe Tessitore was, he was doing sports announcing and stuff, so to make it easier for him, they figured Corey Graves and Michael Cole tried to be nice, go over to SmackDown and, cover for him, and that way Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett could go over to Raw. But now, with the next episode of Raw, it'll be back to the way it was before, with Michael Cole and Corey Graves going back to being the announcers for Raw, and then with SmackDown, we'll go back to the way it was before, with having Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore being the announcers on that show. So anyway, that's what I got out of that episode for SmackDown. There was quite a bit going on, as far as like the NXT call-ups and everything like that. And there you have it. And talk to you again after a while, and, catch you later.